We now move to the presentation of our Honorary Graduate. May I now invite Professor Robert Mull, Head of the School of Architecture and Design, to present Fox Fisher.
Chair, Vice-Chancellor, distinguished guests, graduands, families and friends, it is my honour to introduce Fox Fisher. When the university considers awarding honorary degrees, it seeks individuals who have not only pushed the boundaries of their field for the benefits of society as a whole, but who also reflect the values that are important to us at Brighton University: creativity, sustainability, partnership, inclusivity, and sheer bravery. Today we seek to honour such an individual. Fox Fisher is an award-winning artist, filmmaker, and human rights activist. And I'm also pleased to say an alumnus of this university, having graduated with an MA in sequential design and illustration in 2015. After taking part in Channel 4's My Transsexual Summer in 2011, Fox co-curated the My Genderation project. This project records the experiences and perspectives of all those who do not identify with the agendas assigned to them at birth. So far, over 60 short films have been produced and shown in schools, universities and film festivals, endorsed by the BBC as well as Channel 4. Fox is advisor to the All About Trans, an on-road project facilitating interactions with the mainstream media, including the BBC, Daily Mail, The Sun, The Observer, to discuss the representation of trans people in the media. As a campaigner, Fox has made many media appearances, including on ITV's This Morning and the BBC Inside Out. Fox also plays the character Jake in BBC 4's Tales of the City, and stars as Blake in the web-based series As We Are. Away from the media, Fox is a patron for LGBT Switchboard, co-curator and trustee of Trans Pride Brighton, and has worked closely with Transgender Europe, the international LGBT youth organisation, and Stonewall. In the realm of art, Fox has a passion for screen printing and produces one-off works for sale through Art Republic, Saatchi, and the Brush Gallery, and has spoken and screen printed live at Tate Modern and the V&A, merging the topics of gender and art. Fox has also just completed a documentary about being non-binary in the UK entitled Fox and Al Can't Get Married. Is currently working with NHS England to help train 8,000 staff in a pilot scheme, and is working on a new book, The Trans Teen Survival Guide. Speaking movingly in an interview earlier this year on publishing a letter to his 10-year-old self, Fox said, "When I was growing up, there was no visibility for trans people, and I had no one to look up to. I didn't know of anyone who was trans, and I think its representative and visibility had been at the same point as it is now, I would have come out much sooner and saved myself from years of self-hate and depression. Thankfully, today things have taken a huge shift, and trans people are able to come out sooner and live as their true selves." Fox's outstanding personal contribution and impact in raising the visibility and representation of trans people has not gone unnoticed, resulting in a nomination as one of the top 10 outstanding contributors to LGBT plus life at this year's British LGBT Awards. Therefore, it gives me the great pleasure that we can today add to our university's recognition to Fox's growing achievements. So, Chair, Vice-Chancellor, in recognition of their major contribution to raising the profile, both nationally and internationally, of issues affecting trans people, and promotion of arts and media. It is my honour to present Fox Fisher to the honorary degree of Doctor of Arts of the University of Brighton.
So, Fox Fisher, may I just formally confer upon you the honorary degree of Doctor of Arts of the University of Brighton. Well done, congratulations, fantastic, wonderful achievement. I hope you go on to achieve a lot more.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now, just for this moment. Thank you, everyone. I know you want to hear from Fox, so I now have much pleasure in asking Fox to address you all.
Gosh, how emotional. Chairman, Vice-Chancellor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and those who identify beyond the binary, thank you for this honor. Now, if someone had told me 10 years ago that I would be one day awarded a doctorate, I would have been really, really shocked. Because 10 years ago, and it wasn't 2015, it was actually 10 years ago that I finished my MA in sequential design and illustration at Grand Parade, and I was still trying to find myself. After working at the British Consulate in America in business development, I returned home, feeling that I wanted to be more creative, feeling quite lost in my life. And I went for an interview for a change of direction for a creative MA. And on the day that I returned back to the UK, I lost someone very, very close to me. And that winter was a very, very dark one, where I grieved the loss of my friend. And in the new year, I did medical testing to pay for my master's. It was really important for me to return to education, to sidestep into something creative. And I never thought that I'd be so heavily involved in filmmaking. But it was my short films and not my graphics that got me a place on the course. I was unusually withdrawn at school, and you think I'm bragging now, but I won the Art and English Award for every year of my secondary school education. Eventually, I was told that I needed to pick something and stick to it. And I thought, well, words are the most important form of expression. And then this drifted on to graphic design, illustration, screen printing, and later on filmmaking. My passion for screen printing started at the University of Brighton after completing my MA. I was in the midst of an abusive relationship, and I was at an all-time low for my self-esteem. I enrolled on an adult education course for printmaking, and I fell in love with the process. Jane Sampson taught me how to screen print and has been with me through thick and thin. She can't be here today, sadly, but she is a faculty member at the University of Brighton. I would like to thank Jane for her work at the University of Brighton and for her studio, Inkspot Press, where she continues to employ me and support me and continue to do that throughout my medical transition. Sorry, I don't know if anyone's got a tissue. A lot has happened for trans people in the past few years, and for those who don't know, I am a non-binary trans person, and I was assigned female at birth. In 2011, I was thrust into the public light when I came out on a mainstream documentary called My Transsexual Summer. This documentary, in most ways, would look quite dated now, and during the show I was told that I needed to simplify my experiences and tell everyone that I was just a trans man, not non-binary. I also felt that in order to get access to healthcare, I needed to yet again simplify my experience. For those who don't know what being non-binary is, it means that my gender identity falls outside the binary of simply being a man or a woman. It's not a lack of an identity or gender, and it's not there to threaten anyone who identifies as a man or a woman either. It's a very strong sense of self, and I experience my gender in a very different way. In the past few years, I've had to constantly defend this identity, and very recently I was on Good Morning Britain with Piers Morgan. My partner Al and I were questioned about our identities, and we had to debate this with him. It turned a 4-minute segment into a 15-minute feature, and for that I'm very grateful, actually. It's important to note that non-binary people have always existed, and they do so in cultures all around the world. Non-binary people are even legally recognized in countries such as New Zealand, Australia, Malta, India, and Nepal. While a lot has happened for trans people for the past few years, I feel that we're still struggling with some of the same issues. Trans people's identities aren't respected as much as they should be, and we constantly have to prove, explain, and justify our experience. We're constantly being put down, humiliated, and a lot of trans people experience stigma, discrimination, and even violence. Recent reports show that 48% of trans youth have considered or attempted to take their own lives. It's almost 1 in 2. But a lot has changed since I was on my transsexual summer 5 or 6 years ago, and we're often advancing and making progress, and sometimes it just does feel quite slow, and the world seems quite unjust. I hope that in the future that trans people will be respected and recognized for who they are. I hope that non-binary people will receive legal and social recognition, that's the X on the passport, and the right to marry as well. I want us all to be celebrated for being who we are. And I want there to be a day when no one has to justify their experience or debate it with anyone, because our identities are not up for debate, and they never should be. An acknowledgement of this kind really helps me to feel that I'm on the right path, and I'm very honored to accept it. It's such a surprise. It speaks volumes when it comes down to trans awareness, and it's wonderful to have that acknowledgement, not only for myself, but for trans people. On another note, I meet with a very secretive trans man who's in the process of documenting his life by writing in a notebook about his experiences. It's been his therapy, bringing up a lot of painful experiences and episodes in his life. He's now 70 and in extremely poor health. He shares with me words, and he writes about being a young teenager. When he was 14, he came out to his granddad as trans. His mum had just died, and his granddad did not take it very well at all, and he was placed into a mental hospital up until his 16th birthday, when he checked himself out. This was in the north of England in the 1960s, and I will end my speech with a poem that he wrote about that time in his life. I can only be this, and I cannot be that. It's just the way I am. I can only think thoughts that are only me, for it's me and all that I am. You can lock me up after worrying my head and say words that I don't understand. Strip off my clothes, but I don't care, for I'm me and all that I am. It's no big deal to call me names and drug me 'cause you can. For I know one day I'll leave this place to be me and all that I am. And when the time comes when I leave this world, I will leave it as a man. I will close my eyes knowing in the end I was me and all that I am. Thank you so much. Thank you.